Well, it's a good morning from him, and it's a good morning from me. I hope everybody's well. Welcome to my mortgage live stream. So, great second week of the year. I hope everything's well with you. So we're live on YouTube and LinkedIn, all those good things. Let's go on air, shall we, to see how everybody is, see if you're all right and all good. Yeah, second week of the new year now, so we're steaming ahead, aren't we? All good things. Got a couple of topics for you today. A couple of technical topics, really. Financial Services Compensation Scheme. Hello, we've got to know about that, this sort of things. There's an update for you, really. And I want to pick up on self-assessment because as mortgage brokers, mortgage advisors, our clients doing a self-assessment tax return is the most important thing that they should be doing right now. So let's get straight down to my first topic, shall we? And we'll take a look at the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And I've got a couple of slides just to illustrate this for you. Now, why are we doing this? Well, they've changed a few of the numbers, that's all, because they can, and they do. Nobody stays the same, do they, as things progress. Now, let's get straight in then and talk about the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And I'm going to take you to some visuals now, which illustrate the difference between the scheme and the complaints process, because a lot of people get confused. Well, we don't, because we're knowledgeable, fancy mortgage brokers, aren't we? But the customers and clients do. So let's head over to some slides then, just to give you an indication where we're going then. So let's head over to my first slide. Now, this is a PDF. This is a JPEG from the website of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, and I can zoom in on this one because I can. And you'll notice that they've compared quite nicely the two different ones: the compensation scheme and the ombudsman service, because people get the two confused. So we just drift down to the first section there on the left-hand side. It tells us that the FSCS, as we should now call it from now on, protects customers of firms that are no longer in business. So we're talking about firms that go bust, aren't we? Over here, though, the ombudsman sorts out complaints between customers and firms that haven't gone out of business. They've made a mistake. They've given bad advice somewhere along the line. That's the difference. To make a claim for compensation, you must be eligible under the rules, which we can take a look at in a second. And the Ombudsman Service can help with complaints about most financial products provided in the UK. So that's the basic difference between the two, as you can appreciate. The FSCS has compensation limits, and the Ombudsman basically puts things right. It's not just compensation, but they have what's called redress as well. They can actually put the client back to what they were before. So that's the basic difference between the two. Now, the compensation scheme itself has a number of numbers. Remember, we're talking about firms going bust and providing with an amount of money in compensation. So I just whipped over to the website here, so you can do the same as well if you wish to. Here's the Financial Services Compensation Scheme website. And it's quite a good website, really. It just covers all the numbers, really. We've got this summarized in our revision guide. But the big one is banks and building societies. So it's all about deposits. It's about banks, building societies, or credit unions failing. And the 85,000 is the current limit, has been for a while now. Joint accounts get double that as well. There is a temporary high balance situation there where you can see for 1 million. So if you sold a house, for example, you've got a bit of money on deposit, and that's automatic. Bear in mind, it is per institution. So if you've got a lot of money on deposit, you really should be putting your money in lots of different institutions. Just whiz down to the other ones for you. Credit unions are the same as we just looked at for you. Debt management firms are new ones. Now, these are debt management firms going bust as well, and they use the same £85,000. Funeral plans are a new one. Funeral plans were only regulated last year. And again, they give you up to £85,000 per person, but only if the firm is regulated. Not all of them are. We're talking about funeral companies who sell funeral plans here. Insurance firms, this is an important one. These insurance companies, not brokers. And there's two types here. You've got compulsory insurance and you've got all other kinds of insurance. So compulsory insurance, long-term insurance, PI, professional indemnity, incapacity, injury insurance, 100% is covered, but only if the insurance company goes bust. It's not about bad claims or stuff like that. All other kinds of insurance is 90%. So most covered by 100. Insurance brokers. Now this is the one that affects us. There you go. Let's put that one. It all depends what you're selling. Is it compulsory general insurance or all other general insurance? Very similar to the previous one. Notice it doesn't talk about mortgages, because people don't lose money on mortgages effectively, do they? Because they borrow from a lender, not from the broker. The broker just does the dealings. Investment firms, these are companies, again, £85,000 is the limit there for you. And these are investment firms who invest money on behalf of your clients if they go bust. Not a lot of money there, really, to think about it. And these are mortgage firms. Again, if a mortgage company goes bust and people with mortgages lose out, up to £85,000 again is covered. And payment protection insurance, compensation 90%, which is covered by the earlier figure on insurance companies. Pensions, pension firms, if your pension provider fails, 100% of your claim is covered. If you're SIP operator, that's a self-invested personal pension, up to £85,000, slightly different organisations there. Bad advice, again, is slightly different, but there is eligibility per person. So bad advice claims. There you go. And that's your legal rights. So worth having a look at. On our revision guide, we've got a little summary of the numbers. Will you get tested on the numbers? Probably. You'll probably get tested on the numbers for the savings plans here, the banks and building societies. That's the one they tend to claim most, don't they, at the end of the day? So that's the numbers. Let's have a quick look then at, I don't know, just a bit of fun. See who's gone bust recently, shall we? Here we are. Just click onto another part of their website. This is quite a funny one. Well, it's not funny at all, is it? But it's interesting. Now, you'll notice here you've got a number of firms, a lot of investment firms there. You've got a few financial advisor firms going bust, haven't you, as you can see. Now, you've got there Craig Mitchell, trading as Craig Mitchell. They failed in December 22. You've got plenty of pension firms there. They're looking after different types of occupational pensions, pension firms, they're investment firms, quite a lot of credit unions as well. Birmingham Inner Circle Credit Union going bust. Gloucestershire, close to me as well. Click onto page 4 there, see what else we've got. Quite a few more pension firms there. PPI claims, South Coast Trade Centre. So they're not doing so well now on business-wise. Debt management firms, pension firms there. Quite a few firms, as you can see. Investments, a lot of pensions. It's also a lot of it's to do with the British Steel and transferring out of occupational pension schemes. There's been an awful lot of legal claims against these firms, so they've lost out quite considerably along the way. I don't know, it's just interesting to have a look at that, isn't it, when we see it. So that's a quick update for you on the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. The revision guide's got a few notes in it as well. Hope that's been useful. Bye. Great, just an update for you, that's all it is. When we put that onto our boot camps, you see what we do, we update things as we go along and update the boot camp, which is all video based as well. But for the podcast and for you guys listening, that's a bit of an update for you, a bit of a CPD. You might be able to claim that, but it's only 5 minutes of CPD, isn't it? Okay, let's go on to our final subject of today. Again, we're talking here more about mortgage advisors, mortgage brokers world and what you're getting on to. Hope you're getting on all right this week, by the way. Hope you're thinking about your goals and how you're going to organise things for the year, what sort of plans you've got, how business is coming in a bit, really, what interest rates are going to do. It's quite an interesting year this year, isn't it? We'll see what pans out. Now, for the next session, I want to talk about self-assessment because everybody's thinking about it right now because it's coming up to the end of January. So I just want to clear it all up, get ourselves comfortable, and as mortgage advisors, what should we be focusing our attention on? So I'm going to head over to my whiteboard for this one because I'd like to make a few notes on the whiteboard for this particular topic. So we're talking here about self-assessment. So first of all, let's put a title up there and let's put a sort of a timeline, because when you talk about self-assessment for tax purposes, self-assessment, a lot of the questions in the exam or your general understanding has to be around timescales and affordability. So self-assessment. Now, effectively, we're talking here about the need to tell HMRC how much money you've earned in a tax year. So we're talking at the moment about tax year 21-22. So I'm going to put here in a little timeline for you. Here you go. Here's my timeline. So we're talking about tax year 21-22. So April 21 it started, and it finished in April 22. There you go. That's the tax year or fiscal year. Call it what you like. Now, that's the important thing. Now, what's happening here for different types of people is that you have to declare your income you earned during that period in a self-assessment tax return. And that self-assessment tax return has to be completed by the end of January 23 for this tax year. So I'm going to put that in there for you. So just probably about here, isn't it? April, sort of, there we are. Let's put January in there for you. January 23, which is later this month. So the assessment form itself has to be completed. It's online. There's a piece of paper there for you. And what that does is it tells HMRC how much money you earned in that year. That's all at this stage. So what kind of people are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about two types of character that we come across as mortgage advisors. We have employed people and we have self-employed people. So employed people, first of all, then let's put our employed dude in here, shall we? Let's put a little smiley face there. She's employed, he's employed, so we'll put a tie on them. I know nobody wears ties anymore, but it just indicates that they're employed. Just a silly little picture, isn't it? Now, an employed person mostly pays their tax automatically through PAYE, pay as you earn. You've heard about that. PAYE dominates things, isn't it? And for the majority of employed people, the PAYE system just takes care of stuff. They don't need to do a self-assessment tax return. Their payroll company or firm or department does it all for them, and everyone's a winner. And each year they get given a P60, which indicates exactly how much they've earned and how much tax they paid and that kind of stuff. And as mortgage advisors, we take a P60 and pay slips to validate somebody's income, and you'll scan it in and send it off to the lenders or upload it or whatever. That's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But there are some employed people who do have to complete a self-assessment tax return. Apparently there's about 12 million taxpayers have to complete one of these returns at the end of this month. So the online system's going to be really busy on the 31st of January, unless they've got an accountant that does it for them. Now, a lot of those people are employed. These are employed people who would be high rate taxpayers, for example. If they're a high rate taxpayer, they will have to pay additional tax. But also it's for people that have other forms of income. So, they've got their salary, for example. So they've got their, normal salary coming in, whatever that is. They might have rent from property. They might rent a property, which, they're perfectly entitled to do. If it's in their own single name rather than a limited company, they'll have to declare that rent as income. And that goes on the self-assessment tax return as well. They might have capital gains from shares. So let's put a picture of a share in there for you. They might have shares. And from that, they might have to pay capital gains tax if they've sold those shares at a profit. That has to be declared as well. They may also have dividends from those shares, divs, there you go, from those shares. And if that's the case, they have to declare that. You've got your limits, the numbers of money you can make without paying dividends. But that has to get put onto the self-assessment tax return and submitted so the revenue can work out how much tax you have to pay. The final one that crops up for us really is maybe interest on deposit accounts. Interest. Again, there is a lot of ISAs and stuff which is tax-free, but also there's an element of tax-free interest as well. But the gross figure has to go on there as well. Now, for employed people, they may have their own shares. Now, what you come across, of course, in mortgage advising is an incredibly exciting dude called an owner director. And she, here we are, an owner director. She owns her own company, so effectively she's self-employed, but she pays herself a salary in which she'll pay a PAYE thing going on, but she'll also pay herself lots of dividends according to her profits because she owns the shares in that company. So as a mortgage advisor, you'll be looking for a small salary and dividends, and hopefully the lender will take all of that into account. Now, how do you confirm that? Well, the way you do that is once they've completed their self-assessment tax return, and obviously they then have to pay their tax as a result of that. We'll come on to that in a second. They then get given access to what they call an SA 302. So I'm going to sneak that down here for you, an SA 302, which you probably heard the phrase. Does that come in on the video? Not quite. So let's put it over here for you, an SA 302. Which confirms all of their income from all sources. It's a HMRC document. They download it, print it off, and send it to you, and that's what lenders use. So that's employed people. A little bit complicated if you've got other forms of income. Now, on the other side, of course, you've got self-employed. Self-employed people. So let's put our self-employed dude over here. Let's put it in blue. Self-employed. Here you go. Employed. Now, our self-employed dude, so let's put her in front of a laptop. So she's working away on her laptop because she's a self-employed. So she's working away. It's not a brilliant picture, but it'll do. There you go. Now, self-employed people, of course, are very different because they don't have salary as such. They earn profits. And what happens here is the self-employed person for April 21 to 22, it's the profits that she declared in that tax year that she'll be putting onto the self-assessment. So she will make profits, there you go, in the 21-22 tax year. So whenever she declares them, doesn't matter when she has a year end, she will declare profits. It's those profits that are added to the self-assessment tax return. They call them net profits because for a self-employed person, it's whatever income you've made from your fees and stuff, less any costs, equals your net profit, and that's what you pay your tax on. For mortgage purposes, it's slightly different, isn't it? For mortgage purposes, we call it the net profits, but it's not net of tax. That's the point. You haven't paid tax yet on this one. I don't know why it's called net, it just is. So it's profits. Now, the self-employed person, she may also have other forms of income. Of course, she might have rent. She might have, she might own shares in some other company or whatever. She might have interest. There's all sorts of income, capital gains, etc., and they're all added on as well. So that's the two. That's employed and self-employed. Now, self-employed also will have an SA 302, of course. An SA 302, once you've completed your self-assessment tax return, submitted the income to the revenue, they then let you have access to that. So the sooner the person does that, the sooner you're going to get the SA 302 for that tax year. It's quite it's a year ago, really, we're looking at. And for mortgage purposes, we want the up-to-date incomes, don't we? So get that done. Now, when do they pay the tax? Now, the employed person, he or she will pay their tax under PAYE mostly, unless, of course, they've got a lot more extra to pay through other forms of income. So self-assessment will work out. They may then have to pay a lump sum. Typically, they adjust the tax code for employed people. If they've paid more tax, for example, they adjust the tax code for next year. The tax code, by the way, is the code that tells the PAYE department how much tax to deduct from their monthly salary. So they just adjust that to take into account. If it's like a huge amount, they may ask for money to be paid. If it's a refund, they might actually send you a check. So that tends to be dealt with that way. Now, self-employed people, it's very different. This is where you probably come across this before. Now, self-employed people pay 2 installments of tax. So their tax bill, which is worked out, of course, from the self-assessment, they pay in 2 installments in January and July. We've got January over here, July. We've got January, July. They pay 2 installments. And just to get the dates right for you, so I'm going to get a little that pen there for you. For the tax year 21-22, they will pay in January of 22. So let's squeeze, probably out there, isn't it? January. There you go. January of 22 and July, which is probably about there, isn't it? There you go. 22. They will pay in installments. So this tax year is payable, the tax due in this tax year is payable then and then. Now, how do they work that out? Because you haven't done the self-assessment. Well, they do it from an estimate from the previous years. So they guess, really, estimate how much you're going to declare in January 23, and they ask for half an installment here and half an installment there. That's how it works, based in the tax year. So it's January during the tax year and July following tax year when they pay. Obviously, that happens every January. Now, once you've paid your installments, when you declare your money in January 23, they tidy it all up, don't they? They make sure they got their facts right because it was only an estimate. So you may have to pay a little bit extra, or you might get a refund. Of course, in January, you're paying your first installment from the next year as well. So, you're not going to have any January, July, which is going to be very comfortable for you. You're going to have to pay a big tax bill, aren't you, either way? So that's how that's worked. And that's important to know that as well. For self-employed people, they will probably keep the money aside to pay the tax. Some employed people might do the same if they've got dividend tax to pay as well, because they have to pay that. It's quite a large amount of money. So they'll put it in deposit account probably. You can maybe look at an offset mortgage for these people. We've talked about that before. because if they've made handsome profits, there's probably quite a bit of money has to be paid in those 2 installments. So they'll put it in deposit. Reasonable interest now, but interest rates are not that good on deposits. Get an offset mortgage might be a nice way of looking at it as well. Don't forget the SA 302, which is available once a self-assessment has been declared and they know what your income is. It's a jolly useful document to have, and you will need it for people with lots of different incomes as well. Final couple of points for you. If you find your mortgage client has got a lot of profits, maybe is paying high rate tax, and they're a little bit upset about that, who wouldn't be, then consider referring them to a financial advisor that you might have for pensions advice, because you can pay a pension contribution and reduce your tax bill quite considerably. Particularly if you do it towards the end of the tax year, all those good things. There's all sorts of carry forward options available now. Unless, of course, you're wanting to become a financial advisor yourself, and therefore you might see the option here to talk to the customer about a pension once they've settled in or whatever, or refer it to somebody that you feel you can refer it to. So there's definitely a pensions advice to think about that one as well. Not a bad option. Other than that, that's self-assessment. So end of this month then, quite a lot of people are going to get online, start working it through. It's easy to do, by the way, online. And sole traders don't tend to have accountants because they tend to do it themselves. People who own their limited company, like he does, for example, will probably have an accountant that does it for them. And they've probably done it way in advance rather than the night of the 31st of January 2023. Can you imagine me doing it? You expect to press the send button and you lose your internet or something, and then the following day you get fined £100. You'd be well cheesed off, wouldn't you? But that's self-assessment. Hope that's been an update for you. Bye. Well done. Great work. So, yeah, nice bit of update there for you. A couple of technical topics today, isn't it? Which makes a change, I suppose. We often do sales stuff as well. Had a good webinar on Saturday. We did a webinar for a lot of our members on our database on goal setting, achievement, setting your goals and achieving your goals, which was very well received. And we're going to be putting that onto our systems so people can have access to that as well. So that's good news all around. We're going to work on our YouTube channel a lot this year. So don't forget to subscribe if you're, or is it that way? One or the other anyway. It depends on where you're looking, isn't it? To make sure you've got any friends or colleagues that want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'd be great if you could get that done as well. What else we've got coming up this month? We've got quite a lot of training going on. Our boot camps are still popular for CMAP, equity release, and the protection exam. So we're really pleased about that coming through nicely, and got lots of videos on there and audios and revision guides. And we've kept our prices the same this year, so we ain't budging those. We've just reduced the costs a little bit as much as we can to try and keep the prices to you what they should be. A lot of transition going on in the mortgage market this year. A lot of flux, if you like. Nobody's really sure what's going to happen with interest rates and stuff like that. So interesting to see what might happen. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic week. Enjoy yourself. The weather's atrocious. There's flood warnings here in Gloucestershire. The River Severn's flooding, and everywhere is very wet at the moment. But maybe we could start exporting water. That'd be a good one, wouldn't it? Start exporting water to those countries that need it. We might improve our balance of payments. Although it's probably going to be very expensive just to transport water across an ocean, isn't it? There's probably cheaper ways of doing it. Anyway, enough of that. Catch you all next week. Have fun, everybody, and we'll speak soon. Bye.